There we go. Press got it on your screens. Got it. It's going to stay there the whole time. It doesn't disappear. So welcome to Introduction to Judaism. We are going through a bunch of topics. Let me show you what they are in the chat box, and then I'll read it to you for those of you who can't read. Okay, here we go. We're going to dive right in a moment here. Wait, okay. Wait 1 second. Enable for Harvey. Good. And then I'll explain how to get rid of that. Okay, people sending me messages, messing up my send to all. There you go. All right, and let me see, wait, I find closed captioning distracting. Let me go to my more button, hide subtitle. If the closed captioning is distracting, there are two ways to get rid of it off your screen. One, on the bottom, if you have a big screen, might say CC on it, and that would say hide subtitles. If you have a small screen like I do, go to your 3-dot more button and it'll say hide subtitle. You can remove your subtitles, but it is in English. I think it's more interesting when people ask for subtitles during services. And yeah, you should see what it says, when we're saying Ashrei Oshvei Veitecha, and then, and now I don't know what it says, but it certainly does not say Ashrei Oshvei Veitecha. So this is our curriculum for the next 2 years. Each one of these numbers is a week. So if you're looking in your chat box, year 1, Judaism and God. Number 1, the first class, what is Judaism? Good luck in defining that. Number 2, who is God? Number 3, the Torah. 4, the mitzvot. 5, the chosen people. 6, the Bible. 7, Talmud and Midrash. 8, Kabbalah. Oh, everyone loves Kabbalah, including Madonna. 9, Shabbat. That usually takes me 2 months to teach, 1 hour. Passover and Shavuot, number 10, 11, Sukkot and the high holidays. That won't be easy either. 12, Hanukkah and Purim. And then year 2, that's 12 months of classes, which of course takes us longer than 12 months. Year 2, ritual objects, the synagogue, talis and tefillin and mezuzah, kashrut, the Jewish movements, Holocaust, state of Israel, Jewish ethics. That's a short one. Marriage and family, birth and b'nai mitzvah, funerals and mourning, and the afterlife. So if you took a 12-month class on the afterlife, you get it in 1 hour in 24 months from now. So welcome to today's Introduction to Judaism, March 27th. It's 10:04 a.m. The introduction is over. We are in today's What is Judaism? Just in case you really want to see it in the chat box. I try not to share screen. If you're a share screen lover, you're in the wrong place. I like to rather see you. Okay, so today is What is Judaism, number 1. And we are ready to begin. Welcome. And by the way, you do have the ability to send chat messages, questions. You can interrupt me. This is not a lecture. I can go for 1 hour straight easily. If you haven't never been with me before, I can go for 4 hours straight easily. But I can also answer questions. So if you throw a question up in the chat box, I'll see it. If you unmute yourself, I can see it. If I sign up a Minyan Maker, what will be my obligation? Am I committed? Oh, Carol, you're not obligated, but probably a question for not now. But I will. The answer is you're not obligated if you sign up for Minyan Maker. You just show up whenever you want. Here we go. Back to our class. Here we go. Judaism and God. How do you define Judaism? No one can define Judaism. Bunch of rabbis in rabbi school can't define Judaism. Ask 5 rabbis. It's like a Family Feud. Get 5 different answers. What is Judaism? And the cheating definition. I'm a Scrabble kind of dictionary guy. My grandfather gave me a dictionary for my birthday, when I was like 8 years old, and that was I read the dictionary is like my reading. And so I love dictionaries. And one way you can cheat in a dictionary is if you define something with its own word. So if you say Judaism is the religion of the Jews, I'm going to hit you. Okay, so because Christianity is the belief in Christ, right? If you believe in Jesus Christ, then you are Christian. If you don't believe in Jesus, you probably are not Christian. I don't think you can really have an atheist Christian, but you can have an atheist Jew, which just blows people's minds. One of my favorite rabbis I work with right now is a humanistic rabbi. Humanistic Judaism started in Detroit in the 1980s. I was there when it started. I went to one of their first bat mitzvahs. Very neat. They don't pray to God, they pray to humanity. Very cool. If I ever need a prayer that everyone agrees with, I take a humanistic Jewish prayer. Everyone agrees with it. The ones who believe in God and the ones who don't. But how do you define Judaism? And if I take a dictionary out, right up there, but I'm too lazy to get it, it would say something like the religion of the Jewish people. Even the word religion is a problem, because if you use the word religion, you're already kind of wrong. Because if Judaism is a religion, and you can have atheist Jews, you've already kind of gone down a strange path. When I was a child in USY, the teenage youth group for our synagogue, we would always have these talks. Is Judaism a religion, a people, a race? There were people who defined Judaism as a race. I just gave a talk about that. If you get DNA and tested, 23andMe, I love it. You can be 99% Ashkenazic Jew. Yeah, I find that's interesting that that's a genetic marker. Is it a race? But my favorite one is probably Mordechai Kaplan. If I had to say what is Judaism before I define it or try to define it, I would say that Judaism is a civilization. I kind of like that. It covers a lot more ground. Yeah. I talk about, if you saw someone walking down the street in Squirrel Hill and you wanted to you're in Squirrel Hill and you're like, are you Jew? Are you a Jew? Are you a Jew? It's like the guy who's trying to put tefillin on you. Are you Jewish? Have you laid tefillin? So you want to find out. So if someone says, yes, I'm Jewish, what makes you Jewish? Do you believe? I believe in Judaism. Do you do it? You can do Shabbat and the holidays and kosher and not believe in God. Trust me. Or is it just because you popped out of a Jewish mom? It's like, my daughter is Chinese because she was born in China, but she's not culturally Chinese. So, could you be just Jewish because you're just like an ethnicity, like a race, you just popped out of a Jewish mom and nothing else makes you Jewish, but you are Jewish. So there's a book I'm using, if you really want to know, it's fallen apart, but it's The Book of Jewish Belief by Louis Jacobs, who I disagree with half the time he writes a book, but he has a good definition. I like this definition. The best way of defining Judaism is to say that it is a religion, maybe, okay, that centers around three tremendous ideas: God, Torah, and Israel. I don't mind that. I don't mind that it is a religion that centers around God, Torah, and Israel. I can show you many times when that doesn't work, that definition, but it's the best definition I've found so far. So back to that Jew in Squirrel Hill that you stopped on the street and said, are you Jewish? Are you a God Jew, a Torah Jew, or an Israel Jew? Or did you just pop out of a Jewish mother? I want to add that one in. So God Jews, Jews who believe in Judaism. We had Jews for Jesus came around to Pittsburgh about, I don't know, at least 15 years ago. So one time when all the rabbis kind of agreed, we had a big meeting here at Bethel, Orthodox Conservative Reform. What are we going to do about the Jews for Jesus? And they were teaching the churches how to convert us, because Jews for Jesus are a bunch of Christians trying to convert Jews to Christianity. So we sent a spy over, because it was at Mount Lebanon Presbyterian on Washington Road. They had a class on how to convert Jews, and the Jews for Jesus came to speak. It was on Shabbat morning, so we sent a couple Jews over there. Skip services, go to services at church on a Saturday morning, and learn find out what they're teaching them. And what did they tell their congregation? Jews are easy pickings to convert to Christianity. Little do they know. Yeah. If we don't believe in Judaism, you think we're going to believe in Jesus? All right. So, but the idea was, because Jews don't require faith, don't require belief, it helps, but it doesn't require it to be Jewish. We're easy pickings. So you can trap a Jew in what they do, and then you can make them Christian. And then they would wear shirts, and remember this, they wore shirts like in South Hills Village Mall. Judaism's wrong, ask me why. And their whole point was they want to get punched by a Jew, and then it gets in the news. And then they actually taught them this. You get punched by a Jew, and then and the person says, don't arrest them, it's okay, all I was saying was the truth, and he punched me. That's what they want. So we're like, do not interact with these people. So the God Jews, Jews who believe, you would think is a religion, that's the most Jews. But the funny thing is, most Jews that I grew up with, and I grew up Orthodox, were not God Jews. They were more Torah Jews. They did it more than believed it. Yeah, so the God Jew, I was just having a conversation about people who convert to Judaism. When people come from another religion, usually they're people of faith when they come from another religion, and they bring a very strong faith to Judaism. But the idea is that, but the funny thing is, sometimes they don't find a great place in Judaism when they come from another religion. So the idea is that what we have is that the God Jew, yeah, I'm a true believer. I have a local clergy, not rabbi, who sends me all their conversion students. Like I have enough to do. Okay. So they send me all their conversion students and they said, oh, this one, they pray every day for their sick husband who has cancer, and they really believe that prayer is going to save their life. I said, I'm going to be the worst rabbi for them. I said, you do not want to send this person to me. Send them to a rabbi, who's, do I believe in God? I do. I even believe in Mount Sinai. I believe in Moses and I believe in the Torah, but I am open to the idea that I'm more agnostic. I'm not atheist, that's for sure. But I do question. I sometimes argue. One of my sermons is that I had a wedding. I had a couple, and the woman says, Rabbi, I have a secret to tell you. I'm J-theist. I go, nice to meet you. I'm Jagnostic. And which always sounds funnier in Pittsburgh. But, the idea is that I sometimes say that a true Jew is agnostic, that we are supposed to question, that the true believer, I have no doubt, doesn't really always fit in. So the God Jew is not the majority Jew, I don't think, if I had to do a search. The Torah Jew is the one you see, there goes a good Jew. I moved to Pittsburgh. I meet this guy. He says, Rabbi, I'm not a good Jew, but I wanted to meet you. It's 20 years ago. I love that. I don't love that. But, when someone says, I'm not a good Jew, everyone says that, by the way. The Jew who says I'm a good Jew is probably not a good Jew. But every Jew I meet says, oh, I'm not a good Jew. What does it mean to not be a good Jew? It means that in their minds, they don't keep kosher enough. They don't keep Shabbat enough. They don't do anything enough. And they feel bad. They feel guilty. That's a good Jew. But in their mind, I'm not a good Jew, but I want to meet you. I'm like, why are you not a good Jew? Remember, it's 20 years ago. I'm applying for the job. And they're like, well, I don't go to synagogue a lot. I don't keep kosher, blah, blah, blah. I said, now I did my research. I go, but didn't you give like $1 million to charity, last year? I knew this. And he's like, yeah. I go, so let me get this straight. What if you kept kosher Shabbat in the holidays, but didn't give anything to charity? Would you be a good Jew who is a bad person? And they said, no. And I said, well, maybe you are a good Jew who doesn't keep kosher Shabbat and holidays. But the Torah Jew, the one who keeps Shabbat the holiday, that follows the laws without the other parts to it, most of us would say that's a good Jew. In rabbi school, I'm applying to become a rabbi. This is now more than 20 years ago. And I'm at a table. It's like 20 rabbis asking a college graduate about being a rabbi, even though we're trying to get into rabbi school. And they said, Alex, I know a Jew who, is super Jewish. They keep kosher and Shabbat on the holidays. They do everything, but they're a ganef, a thief in business. How could a good Jew be such a ganef? And I said, you can't be. The problem is it's not a good Jew. If you're a bad person, you're a bad Jew. Even if you keep kosher Shabbat on the holidays, you can't be a good Jew without being a good person. But for most of us, the Torah Jew is the only one we kind of recognize. But there are other ways of being Jewish. And then there's the Israel Jew. The Israel Jew is the community Jew. I don't know. I work out at the JCC. I eat lox on Sunday morning. I go to, the community events. And the Israel Jew is probably the most popular, if you say numbers wise, form of Judaism. They might not really believe in God that much, and they might not do the Jewish stuff, but they are Jewish they're culturally Jewish. There was a movement among Jews, not rabbis, to have cultural conversion. I want to convert to Judaism culturally. I don't know, you like the food. It's the funny thing is most Jews I know are probably cultural Jews. Yeah, I might be a conservative rabbi in a conservative synagogue, but I have a theory that at least 80 to 90% of my people don't keep kosher. Don't answer that question. I wanted to do a survey once, and then someone said, "But Rabbi, if you do a survey of your congregation, someone's going to ask what were these results, and if you're like, I'm not going to tell you, and if you tell some of the results, it'll be a great article in the Chronicle. Bethel congregation, 99% of people don't believe in God or keep kosher. That's all I need in the Chronicle. We probably have some new members too, but it's still, no one wants the truth. So I was never allowed to do a survey, to find out where my people are at, because God forbid we knew the answer. But the Israel Jew, now Israel, nothing to do with the country of Israel when I say that. It could be, I guess you can connect Israel, but when I mean Israel, I mean community. The community, that you're connected to the community. You're a communal Jew, a cultural Jew. Now you can touch a little on services, and you can keep kosher a little. I don't eat pork, outside in my house. I don't know. Only outside of my house do I eat pork. Not me. I'm quoting others. But the idea is that most Jews are not walking around, again, we don't slap people's wrist with rulers if you don't believe in God. And most Jews do not look Jewish or do walk the walk, but, they still talk the talk, but they could also be Jewish. I got this question 2 days ago about conversion. And I said, when I convert someone, I used to convert someone into my form of Judaism, which is ritual Judaism, right? Okay, how many services you're going to? Are you going to learn Hebrew and blah, blah, blah. And then I realized there were, as I got older, and as I get older, I get more liberal. Okay. I used to think as a kid, older people are more, strict, but actually now that I've gotten older, I found that older people get more liberal usually. It's talk to a 100-year-old, why are these people so worried about everything? So as I've gotten older, I've realized that there's different ways of being Jewish. I've converted people who've never seen the inside of a synagogue. They got issues with people, but they're still Jewish. I still consider them a good Jew. Can you be a good Jew? Amy and I, my wife, if you're new to me, Amy and I are at Nordstrom's Cafe's lunch. It's not about kosher. This is about a conversation. And we're having lunch. I hate that place, by the way. But so we're having lunch there. And she's like, what about Reform Jews? Reform Jews don't have to keep kosher, right? You can be a good Reform Jew and eat pig. And you can be a good Reform Jew. But what does the conservative movement look at a Reform Jew who eats pig? It's kind of like, what do we think of a Reform Jew who eats pig, right? Glass houses. Don't ask the Orthodox what they think of me. All right, yeah, trust me, it's not pretty. And I said, well, if I believe that there are Reform Jews, conservative Jews, and Orthodox Jews, and humanistic Jews, and lots of other colors of Jews. And I think that everyone has a role, Christians, Jews, Muslims, and so forth. Then I believe a Reform Jew who eats pig is not a bad Reform Jew, and therefore not a bad Jew, just not a good conservative Jew. No offense to all of the people here who eat pig. But the idea is that in the Reform movement, you are allowed to. And that, the idea is that, there's an old story. I only tell punchlines. I don't tell the stories well, but be the best Moses you can be. Yeah. The idea is that when I talk to other movements or other religions, we don't want everyone to be conservative Jews. Yeah. I don't even know if this movement will exist in 20 years. But the idea is that, and by the way, the word conservative has nothing to do with Rush Limbaugh or, okay, am I back? Good. So I think that was yours. Oh, wait, I'm unstable. Wait 1 second. Having some internet trouble. Internet trouble for a second. Okay, I have a backup Wi-Fi ready. All right, they fixed it. That's always a bad sign. Okay, so good. Okay, you're okay. Be the best, Jew you can be the best Christian you can be the best Muslim you can be. So back to God, Torah, and Israel. There are 3 ways that Jews seem to be Jewish. Yeah, and I like that. It's how you think, how you act, how you feel, or because you popped out of a Jewish mother. And once upon a time, the 3 movements, the 3 big ones, Orthodox, Conservative, Reform, used to focus on one of those issues. You would say Orthodox are Torah Jews, and then in the old days, Conservative was God Jews, and Reform was communal Jews, but it's really changed. It's not so easy to put Jews in a box. So I would say that, and as a rabbi, you either try to move someone within theirs more or try to dabble. And a lot of us probably dabble in different categories of that. We're not just one of those, right? I'm not just a God Jew or Torah Jew or Israel Jew. Maimonides. Now, there won't be a class that we are studying where I don't mention Maimonides. I apologize because he's not the greatest human, but he did some good work for Jews. Maimonides is 800 years ago, and is it 1200? 800 years ago, and Maimonides is the greatest doctor in the world. And 12th century, yes, 800. So Maimonides is the greatest doctor in the world. He's the Sultan's doctor. He's a Jew, and he is the most famous, most popular, most successful Jew in the world. He's the top physician in the world. And somehow he finds the time to write a lot of books too, which I don't believe that he does all this, but this is the way the story goes. So Maimonides, and he's known as Rabbi Moses ben Maimon, Maimonides, Rambam, if you ever hear any of those, same guy. Maimonides, and from Moses to Moses, there was never a Moses, is what they used to say about him. Like, from Moses, the guy who gets the tablets, to Moses Maimonides, they're the two most famous rabbis or teachers in history. Maimonides, I wish I could put this up there. Okay, but I'll tell it to you. Maimonides came up with 13 principles of faith. If you're Jewish, you believe in this. Now, this is where I'm going to save some time for those who take classes with me. I can spend a day on each of these 13 principles of faith. If you come to Friday night services or Sunday morning services at 8:30 a.m., you will actually hear Maimonides' principles of faith. It's Yigdal. Okay, Yigdal Elohim Chai ve'yishtabach. It's the 13 principles of faith according to Maimonides. And Maimonides was so powerful 800 years ago that if you disagreed with Maimonides, you were out of Judaism. He made himself like the gatekeeper of Judaism. He says, because Judaism was so confused by 800 years ago. We had the Bible, the Talmud, the Torah, the Talmud, 10,000 page document you don't stick in your pocket before a printing press. And so what you've got here is Jews were confused how to be Jewish. I'm a Torah Jew. I'm a Talmud Jew. I'm a Pharisee. I'm a Sadducee. I'm a Jew for Jesus. But the idea is that Jews were confused. So Maimonides simplified Judaism into these 13 principles of faith. And he said, if you believe in this, you're Jewish. And if you don't, you're out. And he really kind of succeeded, because today you don't see a lot of Karaite synagogues around. Jews who only accept the Torah and they don't accept the Talmud, and they don't, they don't like if the Torah didn't say light candles on Shabbat, you don't light candles on Shabbat. So the idea is the stuff that makes us Jewish comes from a book called the Talmud, another class for another day. But the idea here is that there were different ways of being Jewish, and Maimonides kind of simplified it. So what is his 13 principles of faith? Ready? 1, God is the creator of the universe. So number 1, you got to believe that there's a God. And number 2, that God made the universe. By the way, you can believe in evolution too as a Jew. If you're new to Judaism, just in case you're wondering, 7 days of creation, fine. God's days, our days, 14 billion years, go back to sleep. 2, God is one. Probably not God is many, not polytheistic, but we have lots of names for God. Yeah, God comes in different forms. God speaks to Abraham in one way, Moses another way, angel of death. We have different forms of God, but God is only one. Shema Yisrael, God is one. Number 3, God has no body, form, or likeness. Okay, so God sees but has no eyes, hears but has no ears, talks but has no mouth. God exists, but God is not human, although we seem to create God in our image many times. 4, God is eternal. There will never be a time when God does not exist, and there was never a time when God did not exist, and there will never be a time when God will cease to exist. Now, I have found in my career that people can get their minds around eternity. I don't know why. The idea that something goes on forever and ever. I throw a baseball in outer space and it just goes forever and ever. I don't actually know if that actually happens, but I'm not going to try it out. So most of us understand infinity in some concept that something is forever. But what no human I have found has an ability to really comprehend is infinity the other way, beginninglessness. I understand endlessness, but beginninglessness, something with no beginning, is something that we have no concept of. Yeah. There's nothing, right? There's nothing that has no beginning. So, thank you. So I was talking to my third graders, and one of them came up with it. And I've taught this many times. A third grader came up with it and says, a circle has no beginning and no end. I said, that's good. But yeah, the idea that something has no beginning. So when I teach God has no end and no beginning, and I teach this to children, they're always like, what was there before God? There is no before God. Who made God? No one made God. Yeah. How old is God? God is beyond older than time. I mean, yeah. And the funny thing is, kids can ask that question, but we actually do as well. Like the idea of beginninglessness is a very hard, concept to swallow or to comprehend. That was 4. Number 5, one must pray only to God. Someone wants to convert to Judaism, almost everything they've learned in their other religions is in Judaism, except for the guy, except for the Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Brahma, whatever it is. Yeah, Satan. Yeah. Have I had a Satanist? No, I've had Wicca, but I haven't had a Satanist. But the idea is, everything that they've learned in the other religions is usually in Judaism. I had this one person converting to Judaism once, and their parents were very upset. Yeah. Oh, just convert to Judaism. We never think what it's like for their parents. When we talk them into being Jewish. And so her parents were really upset that she's converting to Judaism. So I met with her parents. I'm like, okay, mom and dad, I know you're upset. Your daughter's converting to Judaism. I know she's going to hell. Different class, different day. But what does Jesus teach? And they knew Jesus. Jesus teaches this, and this. I go, every single thing you said is in Judaism. There wasn't one thing that they said to me that they were preaching to me that Judaism doesn't believe, other than the Jesus part. That again, for another class for another day. But the idea is but we only pray to God. It's kind of like I was converting someone, conversion class. Guy studied with me for 2 years. He studied with me. 2 years. We're almost done with the curriculum. It was a 2-year curriculum back then. No one was pregnant back then. And he says to me, Rabbi, I still believe in Jesus. I go, that's amazing. I go, you believe in something. That's amazing. I said, you are now one of the most knowledgeable Christians on Judaism. I said, but you're a Christian. Now you could lie to me and the rabbis who convert and say, I don't believe in Jesus, and we'll still convert you. And it's confidential what you told me, unless you tell me you're going to kill someone. So, I said, believing in someone else, praying to someone else, kind of is the definition of not Jewish. I don't know what the definition of Judaism is, but I know the definition of not Judaism is believing in someone else. So number 5 was one must pray only to God. Number 6, 1 minute until Hebrew people are leaving. Number 6, God. This gets harder. 1 through 5 is, if you're Jewish and you believe in God, you believe in those 5 things usually. So that's already 2 steps. There are many Jews who don't believe in God. Jewish and God. Number 6 is a new level of jumping, of a leap of faith. Number 6, God revealed God's self to the prophets. Well, the only way you would believe that or know that is because you believe in the Bible. So now you have to believe in God. You have to be Jewish and believe in God, and you believe God wrote a book. Okay, so, and there are Jews who believe in God but don't believe in the book. All right, so what God revealed God's self to the prophets. Off to Hebrew class, go enjoy yourself. I am recording. Here it goes. God revealed God's self to the prophets. Right? If you believe in the Bible, that's easy. If you don't, the question is, did God speak to humans? Right? I get this question all the time. Why did God stop speaking to humans? That's next month's class. Number 7, Moses is the greatest of prophets. Fine. If I believe in the prophets, then I believe Moses is the greatest of prophets. But could I be a Jew who doesn't believe in Moses? I sure could be. I got rabbis who always say, what if we made up Moses? Right? That I heard this great line once from a rabbi. And the rabbi said, we always say, whenever Jesus says something, we're like, oh, we had it first. right? Hillel, Rabbi Hillel said it before Jesus did. He lived before Jesus did. So like, oh, the golden rule, Hillel had it first. And then, well, a rabbi said, but what if we made up Hillel? I'm like, oh my God. Like, so, yeah, what, how, I can't prove Moses existed. I don't have archaeological evidence. I don't have any good videos of the time, right? We got people, they don't believe that anyway, but you believe in the prophets. Moses, 8, the Torah was given to God by Moses. Well, I guess the Torah says so. It's right. How do I know the rabbis of the Talmud speak for God? Because the rabbis in the Talmud told me they speak for God. Yeah, it would have been much easier if the God said in the Torah, the Talmud's going to be written in 2,000 years ago, and they speak for me. But I love when people claim for themselves, I speak for God. And I'd rather God tell me that. So number 6 through 8 are God revealed prophets, Moses, and the Torah is written by God. That's a second step. You're Jew. This is Moses, Maimonides. You're Jewish, you believe in God, and you believe in the book. Number 9, back to the Torah. The Torah is eternal. God will not change the Torah, nor will God allow the Torah to be superseded. The Torah is perfect. Do you remember the 1980s, 90s, the 1990s, something called the Bible Code? It was very popular. Some person with too much time on their hands did is they took a picture of like a Torah and drew like lines across or around or circled, every 5th letter. And it would spell out some new sentence like, in China in 2022, there will be an earthquake. Like it would predict the future. Do you remember this Bible code thing? People love that. Draw a line through something, or and it tells you the future. It's a Nostradamus, right? Nostradamus was really good at predicting stuff, but a lot of the stuff has not come true. The world is still around 1999, 2000, 2001, 2011, 2010, 12, right? Earth is still around. But the Bible code was the idea that the Torah is going to, Neil, are you unmuting yourself on purpose?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I remember a 9/11.
Uh-huh.
The Torah portion for that day looks like the Twin Towers.
Yeah, fine. And people see Jesus in pancakes, but I agree with you. I'm not saying that it doesn't. I'm just saying that, people always see what they want to see, and people are really good at predicting stuff that happened. There it is, Rochelle. That's the book. I love you, Rochelle. You are fascinating to me. Anything I say, you've lived. Okay, so it's amazing. Bible Code. It was great. I love that book, by the way, Rochelle, because it was so fun, right? But the Orthodox, the Orthodox idea is that, if I'm not Orthodox, I used to be, didn't take. The Orthodox idea is the Torah is perfect. Everything is in the Torah. You tell me space travel, stem cell research, cloning, it's in the Torah. You just have to look really closely and you can find it in the Torah. The Torah is perfect. God knew what was going to happen. So you tell, and now I'm a conservative rabbi. I would say, well, they didn't really have space travel 3,000 years ago. So it's something new. But that you can't say that if you believe the Torah, number 9, the Torah is eternal. God makes no mistakes. It's all perfect. God knew everything. And that is kind of the basis of the 3 movements almost. The conservative, Orthodox, and Reform movements is sometimes the argument of, is the Torah something, not was it given by God? That's another argument. But was it for them or is it for us? And is everything in it? Number 10 out of 13. Number 10. Oh, this is back to God. God knows the thoughts and deeds of all people. God knows everything. God is omniscient. Yes, if you're Jewish and you believe in God, you probably don't believe God is stupid, or God only watches CNN but not Fox News, or God is so busy in China, God doesn't know what's going on with grandma in New Jersey. So the idea is usually you believe God knows everything. This is I'm a comic book fan, right? So how do you beat Spider-Man, Superman, any of them, Batman? You make them save 2 different people at the same time where they can't be somewhere at the same time, right? So Superman had to save Lois Lane in New York City. Spider-Man, the trolley car and his girlfriend. Batman, the mayor and his girlfriend. That's the only way you beat all comic book heroes is you make them go to two different places at the same time. They can't do it. But God, we believe God is everywhere at the same time, knows everything. God is not too busy. Yeah, that we don't usually think God only knows, what God reads in the newspaper. Number 10, 11. God rewards. Oh, this is a good one. God rewards those that keep God's laws and punishes those who disobey them. Reward and punishment. We can argue that for another 25,000 years. Some people believe it. The rabbis of the Talmud, you think it was so great 2,000 years ago? You think that there wasn't violence and death and disease and no penicillin? You think babies and children didn't die and mothers in childbirth? You think it was so great 2,000 years ago when they wrote these rules? So 2,000 years ago, they said, oh, there is reward and punishment in the next world. So you're like, look around. Good people suffer, bad people prosper. And the rule in Judaism is, yes, the reward and punishment comes in the next world. Unfortunately, no one's come back to prove this. So we want to take that on faith. Number 12, God will send the Messiah to usher in a new, better world. If you don't believe in the Messiah, according to Maimonides, you're out. I gave a sermon at least 10 years ago. We don't want the Messiah. That's, again, the 24th class is on the Messiah, the afterlife. But, believing the Messiah. We actually pray for the Messiah in every service, but it's in Hebrew, so you don't know it. So it was Jewish. Yeah. And number 13, the 13th principle of Maimonides' faith was God will revive the dead, make alive again the dead. This was the breaking point between the Pharisee and the Sadducee. The Pharisee is the ones who accepted the Talmud, the Pharisaic Jew, the rabbinic interpretation of the Bible, and the Sadducee accepted only the Bible, which kept them in good business with the Romans. So we have the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And in the Bible, there is no resurrection of the dead. Yeah, Ezekiel gets drunk one day, he's sleeping and he dreams of bones coming back, but we don't actually believe that happened. It was a vision. So, but this becomes Jewish law, believing in the resurrection of the dead. In Hebrew, it's Mechaye HaMetim, the resurrection, bodily resurrection. By the way, I don't believe in bodily resurrection, but so Maimonides would not be happy with me. But this becomes the breaking point. And what he says is, if you don't accept bodily resurrection, Mechaya Metim, you're not Jewish. And this was, successful, again, 800 years ago. Today, I don't know a lot of Jews who believe in bodily resurrection. Don Selig, God bless his soul. I usually mention Maimonides and Don Selig in every class. Don took almost every class I've ever taken up until he passed away at the beginning of COVID, not from COVID, but Don believed in bodily resurrection. And I'm like, how do you believe in that? And both of us grew up at yeshivas and both left it. So we're both troublemakers, but he believed in bodily resurrection. I didn't. But I'm still Jewish and so is he. But God will revive the dead became a real sticking point for the Sadducees and Pharisees, the Karaites, because that was certainly post-biblical, the idea of life after death, which is class number 24. So you'll have to wait. In the end, how do you define Judaism? Every Jew, if I ask the Jews in this room right now, how do you define Judaism? Because I think as a Jew, you're allowed to. And you can put in the chat box if you want. That's going to be fun. Put in the chat box how you define Judaism if you want. By the way, if it's 400 pages, it's like the conservative movement. When it tried to define the conservative movement, it wrote a book. Right? Someone asked them for like a sentence on what the conservative movement meant, and they wrote a book called Emet V'Emunah. Rochelle, you got that book? Emet V'Emunah, a little red book, then they made it blue? No? You'll have to get it. It's fun reading. When I applied to rabbinical school, I thought, what if they asked me to define conservative movement? And I said, and they put out I thought it could just be a sentence, but it was a whole book. So that was the whole class. If you have a question, feel free to ask. Heidi, ask a question. Unmute yourself, ask a question.
Okay. I didn't want to interrupt in the flow.
Yeah, no. I have my finger on the page.
Okay, so I have a couple questions. One, you were saying that the couple or the parents you were talking to, that they asked the questions about, their daughter converting, and was this all in Christianity? And you were saying no matter what they threw up, it was all in Judaism.
Right.
So this might be, and I don't really know because, I'm not that familiar with Christianity, but you hear this all the time in Christianity about turning the other cheek.
Yeah. There are
So
many, 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 many Jews who believe in turning the other cheek. I don't. I think you should hit him first, but that's my Jewish take on it. But in Judaism, but yes, turning the other cheek. Yeah, there are many Jews who believe in turning the other cheek. There was an old spaghetti sauce commercial. It was either Prego or Ragu. I don't remember which one it was. And they're like, is there tomatoes in it? Of course there's tomatoes, green peppers. It's in there, right? Whatever jar, it's in there. So yeah, I can find rabbis who said eat pig if it's to save your life. But the idea is, yes, turn the other cheek is not, I would say, is not a mainstream or even traditional Jewish view, but certainly by today, there are Jews who believe in turning the other cheek. Pacifists, right? Let them hit you.
It's not technically a Jewish concept.
Not my Jewish concept, but there are many Jews who believe in turning the other cheek. So it might not have been a Jewish concept, but extended family. There are many Jews who accept it. Just because I don't agree with it doesn't mean it's not Jewish. Yeah, I'm only one rabbi. I don't know a conservative rabbi who agrees with me, forgetting Orthodox and Reform. Just because we don't agree with it doesn't make it not Jewish.
Okay, I just didn't think that it was part of the Jewish laws.
You could turn almost anything. Yeah, Rabbi Mahler always got mad at me. When I would teach a class with Rabbi Mahler, my Temple Emmanuel colleague before he retired, I would say in these classes, well, I can make the Torah say anything. And he really hated when I said that, especially to like a mixed crowd. But that's what the Talmud is, right? We take something that says the Torah is not in heaven. It's not so hard to get to. It's from Deuteronomy, lo bashamayim. It's not in heaven. And the rabbis turn around to say, it's no longer in heaven. Now humans get to do whatever we want with it. I mean, that's a major jump. So Heidi, the idea is that we can, there are rabbis who have interpreted almost everything other than worship Jesus or Satan.
Okay. My other question, which, as far as believing other gods and only believing God, which I believe in God, but I know there's people out there who believe in God, Jewish and non-Jewish. So I don't know if that isn't a criteria, but they also, and I'm not really sure if this is kind of on the Kabbalistic side, because I really don't understand what Kabbalist is. But there's also people who, I wouldn't say worship, but they believe in God and they also believe in nature. So where does that fit in? Is that not?
Many people believe God functions through nature. Miracles are through nature. That's not a problem. I mean, again, if you're praying to nature, you can pray for nature. If you think nature is going to answer you, don't get me started on superstition. If I step on a crack, I break my mother's back, or a red ribbon around my baby's crib will protect my son from Lilith. These are Jewish too. I would say they're not mainstream Judaism, but a lot of us have superstition, and I don't think that's any worse than nature, right? But I'm not controlling the snow that's falling right now. But if I pray real hard, I'm still not controlling it. So I think we worship our cell phones and our politicians and our basketball superstars, not in Pittsburgh, but in Detroit. So the idea is that, yes, we do have a lot of gods out there that we should not be praying to, but that we do, that Jews do as well. But it is not the same as praying to Jesus. It's, again, if someone else has it, then we get in trouble. Wait, a couple more questions. As a religion with cultural elements, although I'm liking your definition better, not my definition, Rabbi Wolfson defined Judaism as an extended family. Very nice. And you talked about popping out of a Jewish mother. How about if your father was Jewish and your mother not? Right? So the Orthodox and conservative movements say you need a Jewish mother. I'm actually fighting against that part in the conservative movement, but I fight against everything conservative movement. But the Reform movement says it's how you're raised. Who doesn't like that? I mean, does it? Yeah, the person who pops out of a Jewish mother but worships Satan, murders 25 people, and eats a ham and cheese sandwich on Yom Kippur is more Jewish than the person who's born in the Reform movement, has a bar mitzvah, baby naming, and bris, and I don't know, becomes the chief rabbi of whatever, and saves the world. But they're not Jewish according to the conservative Reform movement. The Reform movement. Yeah, I have to say, I kind of respect their patrilineal descent. It's called patrilineal descent, believing that Judaism can go through the father. Biblically speaking, the father seemed to be where Judaism came from anyway. Oh, Neil, you're still Jew. I think we're under. Okay, so I don't know what that means, underrate faith. So I believe a Jew who comes out of a Jewish father, but not a Jewish mother, and is raised Jewish, is Jewish, but not according to the conservative Reform movement, Orthodox movements. So I usually say to them, listen, when someone comes to me, I'm like, if you want to cross the T's and dot the I's, and you want to make the conservative and Orthodox movements happy. But remember, as I gotten older, someone wakes up one morning and says they're Jewish. I don't know. God told them in a dream they're Jewish, and they wake up and I'm Jewish, and they tell everyone they're Jewish. How does that hurt the world? I think people are a little uptight about who is a Jew. It's more of a 1980s thing. It started with Schneerson. When you started saying this person's Jewish and this and that. I talk about the Holocaust. The 6 million Jews who died in the Holocaust. You think that if we actually put all the rules that we have today on what is a Jew, your conservative, Orthodox, Reform, how many of those people would not be considered Jewish according to their rules? And of course, I believe that 6 million Jews died, but I think that it's hard enough to be Jewish myself. I don't worry about calling someone else Jewish or not Jewish. I know that's a little hard as a conservative rabbi, and I get in trouble a lot, by recognizing other people's. But I think, and by the way, I also think you can get out of Judaism. Have you ever heard this one? You can't get out of Judaism, even if you convert out, you're still Jewish. That's how I was raised. If the Orthodox view was, if I convert out of Judaism, you're still responsible for the 613 commandments. So you can't get in and you can't get out. It's like the mob. All right, I saw some hands. Neil.
Yeah, by the way, that icon is me. I'm using my business server.
I see it. Your name is under NTA, but what is an underrate faith?
Oh, I was just saying, sometimes I think we underrate faith. I just, we don't talk a lot about it. I know we're going to have a adult education speaker on faith, but I feel like we underrate it. Like people feel, at some point, I feel like you got to make a leap of faith in Judaism. There's things that just you either believe or don't believe. But we don't really talk about it.
I got to say, it would help to have faith. It would help. I don't like someone says to me, Rabbi, I don't believe in God. Well, I go, you still have 612 other commandments. So it doesn't throw the whole system away, if you're having a bad day with God. But this at the same time, you're right, Neil, faith does help. Certainly can get you through some tough times. Christianity expects us to make a leap of faith, just believe. But Judaism expects you to make a leap of action, just do it. Like Nike, just do it, even if you're having a bad day, even if I don't believe, so the idea is, Neil, and by the way, as much as us old people make fun of millennials, the millennials, they got no work ethic, they're lazy, and they blah, 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 blah. I find that millennials have much more faith than us old people. I never grew up. I grew up a very observant, conservative, and Orthodox Jew. And at no point did I ever say, God is my friend. I now say that. I'm like, I was talking to God yesterday. God is my friend. That is something you never heard in the 80s, in the 70s. So I think faith is awesome. And I think it's coming back, by the way. I think our form of Judaism is dying. There's a new form of Judaism coming, which is kind of exciting. And I think it's much more faithful. By the way, a little less ritual. Sorry, people. Okay, Jonathan, did you unmute yourself on purpose?
Yeah,
And further.
excuse me. Hello.
Hi.
So my father was Jewish, my mother wasn't.
Okay.
I was raised in a very Christian household.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, my father actually converted to Christianity after his parents died.
Hmm.
But I've always felt a really strong connection. I'm actually Joe Fiddler's cousin.
Ah, good.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you got in. Good. Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, actually, I'm his mother's cousin.
Okay.
Anyway, my father only spoke Yiddish at home,
Wow.
which I heard. I don't know these things because my father never talked about it.
Right.
So I'm wondering, I've always said I'm half Jewish.
Right.
That's like being half pregnant. Either you practice or you don't, right? But I feel I'm looking for I'm emotional about this.
Yeah.
I joined a group on Facebook for Yiddish speakers because I have a lot of Yiddish in my head, which is really strange.
Right.
And just the cultural aspects. When I was in college, I went to music school. I'm a bassoonist, believe it or not.
Nice.
And my teacher's name was Sidney Rosenberg. And for Purim, he said, hey, we need Jewish musicians, one for each instrument. Would you like to play for Purim? I'm like, what's Purim? I didn't even know what Purim was. Anyway, to make a long story short, my father was a basketball referee for the NBA, was kind of known, especially in the 80s. Who is
he?
Strom.
I know Earl Strom. I'm a big basketball fan. Okay.
Okay, so he was my father.
Okay.
And he was very well known. So it became, oh yeah, he's Jewish. I'm like, well, he's not. He converted. No, he's Jewish enough. So I don't know where I fit in, basically. And I talked to Joe's wife a lot, Leah, and she said, you're Jewish. Can you be culturally Jewish? Can you be my DNA, like you said, says I'm 49.9% Ashkenazi Jew. Right. So where do I fit in? Basically, I'm looking to know.
Okay.
I call my grandmother Bubby. Like, what? Where do I fit in?
So two things. I have this one case where it's an interfaith relationship, and they did the DNA test, and the Jewish guy was less Ashkenazic Jew than the non-Jewish woman he was marrying. So it's funny when we the DNA testing come out, like all us really white-looking Jews, it's like. Yeah, and I said that we're not the original form of Judaism anyway, Semitic people. But I love that you're 49.8% Ashkenazi Jew. But and the same time is, I got a lot of half Jews. That's the new thing going on. I have a class I'm starting.
Does that exist?
Yeah, well, it does exist, whether we like it or not, or we agree with it or not. Many people say they're half Jewish, and rabbis say, well, that doesn't exist, but a person can live that way. I would say that now the Reform movement, back to the patrilineal thing, if a person converts to Christianity, then I respect that, just as I respect someone who converts to Judaism. But I would say that you were born half Jewish or whatever, and then you get to make your choices. If you live as a Jew, think as a Jew, I think that you could call yourself Jewish. Again, you might not have a piece of paper and 3 rabbis, and you might not get wet, or you can. That's a choice of you. That's going to be your choice. But I think there's a community. I always believe there's a community for everyone. But I do believe that you get to. I think spiritual journeys are very individualized, and you get to decide where you are in your spiritual journey. So I would say that, even if your father converted out of Judaism, yes, I don't like when someone says I'm Christian, they go, no, you're Jewish. Like, I think that's a little rude. When someone says, no, you're not something. That, again, I get that all the time in my own life. You're not a rabbi. Oh, wait. Sorry, funeral home. Okay, so I get that all the time. You're not a rabbi, so it's a little offensive. But if someone says to you, if you said to someone, "I'm Jewish," whether or not your DNA matched up or you're raised that way, I think that I respect that. Now, if you want to please, conservative and Orthodox rabbis or even Reform rabbis, you might have to, get a piece of paper or pay a lot of money in California. But the idea is, I think that you can find your place. And I think there are people today, we don't know what it's going to look like in 20 years, but there are people raising their kids as half Jewish now, much more than they used to. And I don't know what that's going to look like. In the 1980s, Newsweek said you can't do that, but they don't seem to care about what Newsweek said in the 1980s. So it's a different world now.
It also goes back to what you're talking about. What is a Jew? Can
Right.
you be Jewish? Like somebody so in the Yiddish group, I get attacked all the time saying you're not Jewish, your mother's not Jewish. Some people defend it by saying, well, they use that determination back in the day because they
knew who the
didn't
mother
know
was.
who the father
Right.
was. They weren't guaranteed. Now with DNA tests, we know. So I'm not even interested in religion. I'm interested in the cultural, in the hair, and the hair. I always tell people I'm a heritage from lineage.
You're
Like
Jewish
I just tell
lineage.
people my father
Right.
was Jewish now. I just say my father was Jewish.
Yeah, you
I
got a
think
brother.
it's a cultural thing. Believing in the
Yeah.
anyway.
You got it.
What is a Jew?
You got it. Wait, Gert, I'm coming to you because I saw your hand raised, and Rochelle. Yeah, I had a person once. We're converting her. At her conversion, she's like, "I'm so happy. I can't wait to go home to my bubby and have some kishkas with her or something like kanishas with her." And we're like, "Oh my God!" And she never mentioned this through her process. It turns out she was technically Jewish. Her great grandmother was Jewish. We didn't even know that until her conversion. Gerda, Rochelle.
Yes, I wanted to ask, a long time ago, I thought I heard you when you talked about angels. You said, yes, I believe in angels. And I've always thought about what you said, but what do you think about the concept of angels?
So again, that's coming up in class 24, but the angels concept, yes. For Americans, angels are dead people, like, oh, now he's an angel. Angels existed in the Torah. I mean, it certainly mentions angels. So angels are God's hand. And now, so I'm going to separate, I believe in both, by the way. I believe God functions in the world but we can't handle God. So God uses angels, but angels have no free will according to Judaism. So just the hand of God, right? So when God wants to speak to you, blah, 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 it could be an angel or the burning bush. But then my grandma might have died a long time ago, but she still watches over me. I don't call that an angel, but I do believe she watches over me. So I actually believe in both forms, the God's hand thing, the traditional view, and, but when I say angels today, everyone's like angels in the outfield, right? Like the dead baseball players. So yes, we'll talk more about it, but I believe in both, and I believe they're both pretty Jewish as well. The angel concept. And again, a lot of Jews grew up saying, oh, we don't believe in angels. It's all through the Torah. There's a ton of angels in the Torah. It's so we do. We just don't believe it in the same way as in the movies. The movies are much better. But I believe in both. And I'll explain it to you later. All right, Rochelle.
I wanted to go back to Machayeh HaMetim.
Yeah, the resurrection of the dead. Go ahead.
A teacher recently who gave that an entirely different and wonderful, in my eyes, interpretation. And she was talking about the evolution, the changing of the seasons, that the plant dies and then comes back again.
Beautiful.
That kind of circular natural phenomenon. And I like that way better.
The Reform movement 200 years ago rejected Mechayeh HaMetim. They said, we don't believe in resurrection of the dead. And they changed their prayers to say Mechayeh HaKol. So whenever we have a joint service, it's always fun. We're like, Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh, and then like half the group and says HaMetim HaKol, but the HaKol means, and God who gives life to everything instead of life to the dead, right? Which is a very different concept. But yes, they added that back into their new prayer book. Their new prayer books started adding it actually has an option for Mechayeh HaMetim in the new Reform prayer books. So you do have that option. And again, I believe, Rochelle, what you just said is, I believe, a key. I'm not trying to talk anyone into Judaism here. I think most of the people are Jewish. So I think everyone here is Jewish, but I'm not trying to sell Judaism. But what I love about Judaism is that we keep 3,000-year-old traditions, but change the meanings over time. So we can keep Mechayeh HaMetim, the resurrection of the dead, and then say, but with reduce, reuse, recycle, the modern concept and composting, and we can and the idea is that we are there is a renewal. We do know that, right? So Rochelle, I love that. I think that's the key to Judaism, is that, that we keep on evolving. We keep the same Mechaya Metim, but now we say it's about, again, renewal, environmental. There's a new thing going on, not so new, but you can now get buried without a coffin in Pittsburgh, in Penn Hills, and and I've had 3 Jews buried there, and so the idea is that I've had 3 Jews buried there, and it's just a body on a board. You put it in the ground, a meadow next to trees. You get to choose forest or meadow, and that's pretty Jewish, right? You're returning to the earth, and you're trying to be part of, making the world a better place environmentally. In Israel, by the way, they don't use coffins. So it's not, but in America, it's a little strange to see a body wrapped up in a shroud going into the ground. So but that is the key to Judaism. And I think that's the key to, I can't define Judaism. I know I'm 1 minute late, and I'm supposed to teach 7th grade. But the idea is, in Judaism, I think the definition of Judaism evolves as well. What may have worked in the Webster's dictionary might not work today. I love it, but I'm not selling Judaism to anyone here. But and Jonathan, if you want a piece of paper, I can work with that on you. But you can also, call yourself Jewish. And if someone calls you half Jewish, I don't believe in fighting. Just, they should live and be well. And if you're in your Yiddish club, you don't have to take it from them, but stay in the Yiddish club. I think it's great. So everyone who's here, I see a couple more hands. Let's say like 13-second answers. Irv. Oh, sorry, I muted you. Go ahead. Here now.
According, if I understand correctly, according to Israel, the right of return, you're defined as Jewish if you have one grandparent.
Wait 1 second. Wait. Here it goes.
Wait, now we're muted.
No. He's muted.
We lost you.
Can't hear you, Rabbi. You're muted.
That's because I'm talking to someone. Okay, so go ahead, Irv.
If I understand correctly, according to in Israel, the right of return, you're Jewish is being defined as having one grandparent, and it doesn't specify male or female. That defines you as being Jewish.
I don't know the answer. I deal with Israel all the time for converts, because I'm the gatekeeper for conversions. Little do they know who I am, but they call me up and check into conversions in Pittsburgh so they can move to Israel. I've sent quite a few people to Israel to be citizens, but I didn't know that. It makes sense because Israel accepts reform and conservative Judaism outside of Israel. Inside of Israel, you got no rights, but outside of Israel, they do accept it. It's very interesting. I do have to go, but I try to add in some conversation earlier. Our next class is, let me just put it into the chat box. There it goes. Okay, you don't see it yet. Copy.
Here.
Okay.
Here's a pen.
Here we go. There we go. Next class. I don't know if we'll pull it. Yeah, it matters what happens with this new AB Omicron version, but we might do, and I might say in person, we would do both online, but we're working on it. Next class is on God. That's an easy one. Sunday, April 24th, 2022, 10 a.m. That is our next class. Okay. Everyone have a great day. Thank you. And I'm going to